morning. It's about 6:15 Sunday morning, and I'm on my way to Timbits Hockey at the Bolton Arena, and I'm just trying out my new car holder for my cell phone in my car that I installed earlier this week. And just warming up the car a bit. I got the seat heater on because I like warm buns. Okay, here we go, and we'll see how the cell phone holder works. Oh, somebody's up bright and early. Off to work probably. Some dork back there with his high beams on while I test out my phone holder. Yeah, I was talking about people getting their licenses out of cereal boxes jokingly, but it actually used to happen here in Ontario, where people used to buy their truck driving licenses for, I think, the going price, the going rate was around $10,000 for your truck driving license. Now, I had to take out a loan to get my own truck license back in the 90s, and I went to the bank and explained to them, I wanted my license. I was a working person. I had a job with a trucking company, and therefore, it would be used. And I had no problem getting the loan, and it was $2,600 at that time. That was 1995, I want to say. Anyway, in the mid-90s. And that was a lot of money at that time, especially for me, because I was pretty financially strapped. But I got the loan, and I took my truck driving course at Kim Richardson's out in Caledonia, and they're an excellent outfit. I'm not even sure if they're still operational, but probably, why not? They were a good outfit. They made sure they followed all the rules and regulations. You put in your hours. They put me with 4 different instructors, which is all they had, but every time I went out with a different instructor. And the reasoning behind that was you get to observe and hopefully learn some of the habits of 4 different professional truck drivers. So, you get a good all-round exposure. And it was fun. Oh my God, it was fun. It was worth every penny just to take that course, in my humble opinion. And but around that time, there were people, there was other truck driving schools. One of them was Toronto Truck Driving School, who used to offer very cut rate courses, but they used to take, not a cab over. They used to take a tractor with the extension on the back of them. They used to put 6 or 7 people in there and take them out, and they all used to take turns driving and whatnot. This is what I heard, but I actually saw this happening. Is that the bus? That's the bus. So Toronto Truck Driving School, and I don't mind naming them because they were a shit outfit, and others like them, were doing this and putting drivers on the road with littler very little training. I won't say no training because, you know, at least they did take them out on the road. At least they had been in the cab of a truck. But they never learned the finer points. I'm almost certain they never learned to back up properly, etc., etc. And there was also rumors going around that these companies would give you your license for a sum of money. The sum of money kicking around was $10,000 for your license. Now, let me ask you, I had to take out a loan for $2,600, and with that $2,600, I took 3 weeks of courses all on the weekends. I had to put in 40 hours over those weekends, which meant Saturday and Sunday of each weekend and a Friday of the last. And some poor bloke goes out and pays $10,000, which is like $7,400 more than I paid to get a license that he never trained for, and then go on the road operating a piece of heavy equipment that could possibly kill somebody or several somebodies, including himself. Let me ask you, does that make sense? Does that make sense to you? Anyway, that's my story. And further to getting my license, when I got my license on that Friday, the Friday was actually dedicated to going up to the ministry in up north of Oswego there, in Cayuga, out by the Six Nations Indian Reserve, which is a fabulous place, by the way. I used to love going out there. But anyway, we went up to Cayuga. I got my license, no problem. And that afternoon, I went into my work at Pure Later down in Hamilton. I was a courier. No, I was on the dock at that time. I had been a courier. And I tried for years to get Pure Later to upgrade my license, but I was actually told at one point by one manager that why did I want to be a truck driver? I was a woman. That went over like a lead balloon. And I said, fuck it, I'm going to get my own, and that's what I did. So I did. So I walked in, and I remember going into my manager's, not the same manager, but the head manager's office, and putting my license down on his desk and say, hey, Frank, look what I got. And he looks at it, and he goes, oh, he says, great, Fergie called in sick. You want to go to Toronto tonight? And that's how I started out. I don't believe the ink on my license literally had dried. And I was on the road. And thank God it was at night. I drove out at about 10:30, 11 o'clock that night to Toronto. Thank God it was Friday. And I was scared to death I was going to kill somebody. I was. And I had had full training, you know, with competent professional truck drivers. So how these fellows went out, you know, knowing next to nothing. Maybe it was better that way. Maybe it was better if you didn't know anything, you know, to go out with that mindset I'm talking about, not with the ability. But I love hot buns, and I cannot lie, but that seat's getting too hot for me. Let's turn that off. And that's the story of how I got my license. I did not get it through my work, as many did. Many were upgraded, and we always used to tease those guys because upgrades, you know. And but Pure Later put in a fairly good program as well, although it was only a week. But our driver trainers were very well trained and very sensible. I liked all of them. Yeah, so I drove to Toronto that night and experienced the Ontario hub. and it was like a long lost bee coming into the hive, because yes, it was a hive. It was absolutely insane, and still is to this day. If you're shunting in a large yard, trailers going every which way, because shunts are allowed to go anyway or at that time they were allowed to go anyway in the yard, and you had to give way to them. You still do. There are yard rules. For drivers, it was a one-way. Shunts mostly went one way at that time, but you would sneak around, especially at night. The night shift would do anything because lesser traffic. And of course, as it got closer, I took 3 loads from Hamilton to the Ontario hub in Rexdale. And I would go back, and I was nervous as hell backing up first time, and I had to take several tries, and got into a fight with one of the shunts down there, and I ended up doing that. I put in my transfer almost immediately, because things in small depots with our company, with Pure Later, the seniority lists, we're union, we're Teamsters. Things move very slowly out in the outlying regions, the small depots, because there's just not that much turnover, so it takes ages and ages for you to work up the seniority list. I know fellows there with upwards of almost 40-year seniority that are still working. So I saw that my opportunity, I had 7 years at the time, 6 or 7 years. My opportunity to move up the seniority list and get a decent job, especially a truck driving job, because I was working the dock at the time, and while I enjoyed working the dock, unloading trailers kept me fed. There was a lot of politics going on at that time. Well, it still is, because what happens is people get positions that they shouldn't because of their relatives, and they come into the position and they figure they have to do something, so they do. They move everybody around. Well, everybody's doing the job they were supposed to do in the first place. They're doing it competently and well, and then this knob comes in who runs the place, who knows absolutely nothing, has never driven a truck in his life, and decides to switch everybody around, put Joe here and Peter there, and it just causes unrest and dissent. I was going to say dysentery, but I think it might cause dysentery as well. And backbiting and all that kind of crap. So I didn't like the environment out there, and I decided to put in my transfer to Toronto, and I transferred down here. I guess we can call this a story time. A truck driving story time. Make sure I don't have toothpaste on my face. And I transferred down to Toronto, and I took a shunt position at the hub and really learned how to drive a truck. Although shunting is a lot of fun. You don't use a regular tractor, although I did shunt in a regular tractor, a crank, for quite a while before my seniority allowed me to bump up into a hydraulic shunt tractor. But it was a lot of fun coming down to the hub. I made a lot of friends over the years, and I really enjoyed my time at Pure Later, I must say. I miss it. I don't miss the politics and the backbiting and the dysentery. But I miss the people. I miss the camaraderie. It was a good time.